Welcome everyone to our long-awaited 800 subscriber special multiplayer match, our episode 79 of EDH Commander Challenge. I'm your host, BT, and just 3 things to mention before we get started with today's episode. First things first, I know it's long overdue, but thank you guys for helping us to surpass 800 subscribers. Currently, we're sitting at around 910, so we're about 90 away from 1K. You guys are the absolute best, and thank you for helping us make it this far with our dream. Secondly, as for the 900 subscriber special, we've already started to begin work on it. It's going to probably be out between now and the end of February, in which case that'll be around the time of the channel's 2-year anniversary. So can't wait for that. And the third thing is, we want to know, do you guys want it to be a regular 4-player match, or do you want us to finally invoke that plane chase? Let us know in the comments down below if you want to see either plane chase or not. Now, without any further ado, thank you for your patience. Let's show those opening hands. Let's go! First we have Josh playing his Marwyn the Nurturer elf deck and keeps an opening hand with Asceticism, Druid of the Cowl, Immaculate Magistrate, Elvish Soul Tiller, Vanquisher's Banner, and 2 Forests. Then we have the Mad Scientist Francis playing his Vorel of the Hullclaw deck, the beautiful Simic style if you will, and keeps an opening hand with Bow of Nylea, Kadama's Reach, Bribery, Kiora the Crashing Wave, Umezawa's Jitte, and 2 Forests. I am playing my 4-color Atraxa Praetor's Voice / Superfriends deck, inspired by Alex from Affinity for Commander, and I keep an opening hand with Hallowed Fountain, Polluted Delta, Forbidden Orchard, Vivid Grove, Rhystic Study, Karn's Temporal Sundering, and Wrath of God. And finally, Mr. Gemi playing his WUBRG deck featuring Cromat, keeps an opening hand with Azorius Signet, Boros Signet, Eladamri's Call, Nicol Bolas Planeswalker, Muldrifter, Tranquil Expanse, and Murmuring Bosk. Francis won the die roll, and he'll be starting us off. Let's go! Francis starts by playing a forest and passes. Gemi plays a Murmuring Bosk and passes. I play a Vivid Grove and pass. Josh plays a forest and passes. Francis plays a forest and casts Umezawa's Jitte and passes. Gemi plays Wooded Foothills and pays 1 life to sacrifice it. This lets him search out a Stomping Ground untapped, paying 2 more life. Then he casts Boros Signet and passes to me. For my turn, I cast Oath of Nissa, which off the top of my cards grants me a Liliana Vess. I then play a Krosan Virgin to play tapped and pass. Josh plays a forest and casts Druid of the Cowl and passes. Francis plays a forest and casts Kadama's Reach. Plays an island into play tapped and another one to his hand before passing the turn. Gemi plays a Battlefield Forge and casts Azorius Signet, followed by Expedition Map before passing. For my turn, I pay 2 life to play a Hallowed Fountain into play untapped and cast Rhystic Study before passing. Josh plays a Forest and casts his commander, Marwyn the Nurturer, paying for the Rhystic Study tax, and passes. Francis plays an island and casts Bribery, targeting me and not paying for Rhystic Study, allowing me to draw a card. The table agrees Francis should have chosen Gemi, as he has a 5-color deck, and that my deck has little in terms of creatures. Nevertheless, Francis gains Toothy, Imaginary Friend. Meanwhile, Gemi sacrifices his map to add Scrubland to his hand. Then, Francis passes. Gemi plays a Scrubland and casts his General, Cromat, paying 1 for the study tax, and passes. For my turn, I play Forbidden Orchard and give a Spirit to Gemi and cast Wrath of God, destroying all creatures. Josh and Gemi return their generals to the command zone. Then, I pass. Josh casts Kadama's Reach to grab 2 forests, 1 tapped and 1 into play for the turn, and I get to draw 1 from Rhystic Study, as he doesn't pay the tax. Then, Josh passes. Francis plays a Slumbering Falls and casts Kiora, the Crashing Wave. He uses her -1 ability to draw a card and play an extra land. Then he casts Brainstorm. He chose not to pay the study tax for either spell, which means I got to draw 2 cards. Francis plays Temple of Mystery for his extra land, leaving the scryed card on top, and passes. Gemi plays a Tranquil Expanse and casts Celestia Signet. He also evokes a Muldrifter, drawing 2 cards. Not paying the tax for either card, I get to draw yet another 2 cards. Then, he passes. For my turn, I play Vesuva as a copy of Crow's and Verge. I give Josh a Spirit token with my Orchard, and cast Elspeth, Knight Errant. I then use its +1 ability to make a 1/1 Soldier token, and pass the turn discarding down to 7 cards. Josh casts Path of Discovery during his turn, paying the study tax. Then moves into combat and attacks Kiora with his Spirit token, killing her. Then he passes. Francis plays a Forest and casts Primeval Bounty, paying the study tax, and passes. During his end step, Gemi casts Eldamari's Call without paying the study tax, adding a Rune Scar Demon to his hand while I draw a free card. Gemi plays a Hallowed Fountain and casts Rune Scar Demon, paying the study tax and taking 1 damage from tapping his Murmuring Boss for a black mana. This allows him to tutor a card to his hand. Then he passes. For my turn, I play a Bayou and use Elspeth's +1 again to make another soldier token. I give Josh another spirit token with my Orchard, which triggers his Path of Discovery, revealing a Yeva on the top of his deck, which he chooses to leave there and put a +1/+1 counter on the spirit. Then I cast Ob Nixilis Reignited and use its -3 effect to destroy Gemi's demon. Then I pass. Josh plays a Wirewood Hive Master, paying the study tax. Path of Discovery triggers, and he reveals a forest, which he gets to add to his hand, which then plays as his land for the turn. Then he passes. Francis plays an island, gaining 3 life thanks to his bounty's trigger. He then casts Colonian Hydra, followed by his general, Vorel of the Hullclod, paying the study tax only for the Hydra, letting me draw 1 free card. His bounty triggers twice, giving him 2 3/3 beast tokens. Then he passes. Gemi starts his turn off by casting Vessel of Endless Rest. Its effect allows Gemi to place his Rune Scar Demon from his graveyard to the bottom of his deck. Then he casts Venser the Sojourner. Using Venser's +1 ability, he blinks his Vessel of Endless Rest. He places another card from his graveyard to the bottom of his deck, then passes to me. I then realized I could have drawn 2 free cards thanks to Rhystic Study, but wasn't paying attention. During my turn, however, it turns out to be a blessing in disguise, because I get a miracle. Revealing Temporal Mastery from the top of my deck and casting it for an extra turn. Gemi responds by casting Brainstorm without paying the tax, so I get a free draw, looking for an answer for my mastery. Gemi is unable to find one, and so it resolves. So I use the +1 abilities of Elspeth to make a 3rd soldier, and Ob Nixilis to lose a life and draw a card. I also sacrifice my Vesuva Crozenverge to search out a breeding pool and a temple garden into play tapped. I move into combat and attack Gemi's Venser with 2 soldiers. Then I move to my extra turn. During my extra turn, I play a Tropical Island, and I use Elspeth's +1 again to make a 4th soldier. Then I move into combat and have 3 soldiers attack and kill Gemi's Venser. During my second main phase, I then cast Karn's Temporal Sundering, taking yet another turn. And I also bounce Francis's Hydra back to his hand. Then I use Ob Nixilis' +1 to draw a card and lose a life. And then pass, moving to another extra turn. For my third turn, I play Command Tower and use Elspeth's -8 ability, making an emblem that grants all of my artifacts, lands, and creatures indestructible. Then I cast my general, Atraxa Praetor's Voice. I then use Ob's +1 ability to draw and lose a life again. Then I cast my Kiora, the Crashing Wave. I use its +1 ability and target one of Francis's beast tokens and pass the turn, proliferating my cards with Atraxa's ability during the end phase. For Josh's turn, he casts Wirewood Herald, paying the study tax. His Path of Discovery reveals Herald's Horn, which Josh leaves on the top, and he places a +1/+1 counter on the Herald. Josh forgets to make an insect token here, and passes. Francis starts by casting Savage Summoning, not paying the study tax, so I get to draw a card. The bounty trigger sees Francis place 3 +1/+1 counters on Vorel. He then recasts the Glare. The Colonian Hydra. It's because there's so much glare there. I apologize, guys. Which comes in with 5 counters instead of 4, thanks to the Savage Summoning's effect. And the bounty trigger gives him a third 3/3 beast token. He then uses Vorel's effect to double the counters on the Hydra, making it a 10/10. At this point, I choose not to draw with Rhystic Study, and Francis simply passes. Gemi plays a Marsh Flats and pays 3 life to sack it and search out a Blood Crypt into play untapped. Then he casts an Orzhov Signet to add to his collection. Again, I choose not to draw with Rhystic Study. Then, Gemi passes. For my turn, I pay 2 life to play a Watery Grave untapped, and I use Ob Nixilis's -3 ability to destroy Francis's Hydra. Then I cast Liliana Vess and use its -2 ability to search out my deck for a card and place it on top of my deck. Essentially a free vampiric tutor, if you will. Then I cast Oath of Jace. This lets me draw 3 cards and discard 2. Finally, cast Pyramid of the Pantheon. I move into combat and attack Josh with Atraxa for 4 damage. I gain 4 life. I then pass and proliferate during the end step. Josh simply checks the board state during his turn and passes, stating he has a plan. Francis plays a Botanical Sanctum tapped, gaining 3 life from his bounty trigger. Then he casts Ever-Flowing Chalice, kicking it 3 times. Then uses Vorel's ability to double the counters in the chalice, indicating he'll never have problems with mana for a good while. To which I totally agree. His bounty trigger sees him place 3 more +1/+1 counters on Vorel, which, to be fair, probably has to be the largest Vorel I have ever seen in a game of EDH. Then he moves into combat and attacks Josh with a 3/3 beast. Josh blocks with a spirit, and then Francis passes. Gemi plays a Glacial Fortress and casts Gideon of the Trials. He used its +1 ability and targets my Atraxa, preventing it from essentially dealing any sort of damage until his next turn. Then he passes. During my upkeep, I scry 3 thanks to Oath of Jace. Then I cast Mirari's Wake, doubling my mana. I used Liliana Vess's +1 ability to have Gemi discard a card. This single move annoys him enough that he casts Cyclonic Rift with Overload, paying the study tax to bounce most of the board back to his opponent's hands. I respond by floating 10 mana and giving Josh a spirit token before the rift resolves. Josh explores with it, revealing a Taunting Elf, which he leaves on the top of his deck. After that, I use my mana to recast Mirari's Wake and Liliana Vess. I use her +1 this time to have Francis discard a card. He thanks me wholeheartedly and discards Wonder, which now grants all of his creatures flying since he has an island in play. Way to go me! Oh my gosh. Moving on, I pass and discard down to 7 cards once again. During my end step, Josh flashes in Yeva, Nature's Herald, giving his green creatures flash, and also flashed in his Wirewood Hive Master. For Josh's turn, he casts Vanquisher's Banner, calling Elves. He casts Taunting Elf, drawing a card from the banner trigger, and also getting an insect token from his Hive Master. He then passes, forgetting to attack. Francis recasts his Primeval Bounty, then plays an island to gain 3 life from his bounty trigger. Then he recasts Vorel, gaining a beast token from the bounty trigger. Then finally, cast Umezawa's Jite, placing 3 +1/+1 counters on the beast token with his bounty trigger before passing to Gemi. For Gemi's turn, he casts Soul Ring, then recasts his general, Cromat. He then uses Gideon's +1 ability, targeting Vorel before passing to me. For my turn, I use Liliana's +1 ability to make Francis discard a card. I then recast Atraxa, as well as Ob Nixilis Reignited. I use its -3 to target Cromat to destroy it, but Gemi regenerates it. Then I cast the Chain Veil and use it to use the +1 effects of both of my Planeswalkers, allowing me to draw a card and lose a life, and then Francis discard another card before I pass a turn. And during my end phase, I proliferate my permanents. Josh casts Herald's Horn, calling elves, then casts Wireward Herald, getting another insect from Hivemaster. He also gets a draw from Banner. He then plays a forest and passes. Francis casts Arcanus the Omnipotent, gaining a beast token from his bounty trigger. He then moves into combat and attacks Josh with a 6/6 beast token that has flying now thanks to his wonder in the graveyard. With no blocks, Josh takes 6, and then Francis passes. Gemi plays Breeding Pool untapped, taking 2 damage, and creates a Gideon emblem that pretty much states as long as Gemi has this emblem, he can't lose the game as long as he controls a Gideon Planeswalker. Then he passes. For my turn, I cast Sorin Grim Nemesis, followed by Kiora the Crashing Wave. I uptick Kiora and target Vorel so it can't deal damage until my next turn. I then uptick Obnixilis to draw a card and lose a life. Then I uptick Liliana and have Josh discard a card. Then I finally uptick Sorin, which gives me a land so nobody takes any damage. And then I activate my Chain Veil, which allows me to use my Planeswalker's abilities a second time. Starting with Liliana, I use her ultimate to return all creature cards in graveyards into play under my control, giving me Toothy Imaginary Friend, Wood Elves, Nettle Sentinel, Druid of the Cowl, Wonder, and Colonian Hydra. I play a Mox Diamond, discarding a land, and remember that I have a Wood Elves trigger that I'm supposed to resolve, and go grab an Overgrown Tomb untapped, taking 2 damage. Sorry for the sequencing there, guys, my bad. I then uptick Sorin and reveal a Nivenril's Disc, causing each opponent to take 4 damage. I then use Obnixilis' -3 effect to kill Arcanus. For my last Planeswalker, I use Kiora to target Gemi's Cromat so it can't deal damage. I then cast the disc I just drew, and then move into combat and attack Josh for 5, getting 5 life, and dealing him 5 commander damage. Then I pass a turn, and I proliferate all my stuff on the field, while Josh, during my end step, flashes in Elvish Archdruid, gaining an insect token and a free draw. Josh reveals a land with his Horn trigger, and then he casts Sylvan Messenger, This gains him another insect token and a free draw, but he fails to get any new elves to his hand with the Messenger's top 4 reveal effect. He then plays a forest and casts Asceticism before passing his turn. Francis starts his turn by equipping his Jite to his 6/6 beast, then uses his general to double the counters on it, making it a 9/9. Moving into combat, Francis attacks Josh with a 9/9 beast, to which Josh blocks with an insect. The Jite gains 2 counters, and Francis passes. Gemi moves straight into combat for his turn, and attacks Francis with Cromat after giving it flying and +3/+3. But then we remind Gemi that unfortunately it won't be able to do any damage since it was a target of my Kiora Planeswalker. No! As a result, Gemi simply passes. For my turn, Toothy gets a +1/+1 counter as I draw a card. And then, to no one's surprise, I use the disc to destroy all artifacts, enchantments, and creatures in play. However, my field remains unfazed due to the Elspeth emblem I have out. Josh responds by floating 6 mana with his Archdruid, and uses it to regenerate his Yeva, Hivemaster, and Archdruid. He then searches out a Heritage Druid with his Herald's trigger. Gemi floats all of his mana and regenerates Cromat, while Francis returns Vorel to the command zone. I move into combat, and I attack with all my creatures, doubling the counters on the Hydra in the process, sending my Sentinel and my Toothy at Gideon to kill it, and the rest at Gemi, dealing him 23 damage while I gain 5 life. During my second main phase, I cast Supreme Verdict, killing Josh and Gemi's remaining creatures. This game's been going on for a crazy amount of time. I decide to pass my turn without using the remainder of my Planeswalkers and take 2 damage from my Chain Veil. I tell you guys, it was 3 hours at this point. We were exhausted. Anyway, moving on, Josh plays a forest and casts Elvish Soul Tiller, followed by Copperhorn Scout. Then he passes. Francis starts his turn by recasting his general, Vorel, and then Grow from the Ashes with its kicker to grab some basics from his deck into play and passes. Gemi plays Opal Palace and casts Channel of the Suns and recasts Cromat again and passes. For my turn, Toothy gets another +1/+1 counter, and once again I reuse my disc to blow up everyone else's field. Gemi saves Cromat by regenerating him. I then cast Karn Liberated. I use its -3 ability to exile one of Josh's forests. Then move into combat and deal enough damage to kill both Josh and Gemi.
Foot dive!
During my second main phase, I use all my walker's abilities and the Chain Veil to use them a second time, which includes using Soren's ultimate, which gives me spirit creature tokens equal to my life total before passing.
Exactly.
For Francis's turn, he casts Genesis Hydra for 12, looking for an answer to this situation. But sadly doesn't find one and surrenders the game, giving me the OP victory. Well, after that crazy long game, here are our choices for this week's Cardboard MVP. In the case of Josh, definitely Path of Discovery. He was even getting use out of the spirit tokens I was giving him, allowing him to explore his deck a bit and plan out for future turns. If he had gotten something, say maybe a Genesis Wave earlier on in the game and built out his board a little bit more, he could have easily killed anybody, even me, even with my emblem. In the case of the Mad Scientist, Primeval Bounty, it was his best. If it was a creature, it would be his spirit animal. He got so many life triggers, he was always on the throne in terms of life the whole game. Not to mention his Vorel and his beast tokens were getting mighty huge off his non-creature spells, and with all the beasts he had, it made it difficult for anybody on the table to want to attack him. Not to mention with that brilliant wonder that was in his graveyard for a little bit of the game. I'd say the only real downfall there is he could have definitely been a lot more aggressive. Mr. Gemi unfortunately got the short end of the stick this game. He was mana flooded. Normally you'd think this is a kind of a good condition for a Cromat deck, as it gives you access to all its abilities. But unfortunately, as you saw in the game, Cromat wasn't really a threat to pretty much anyone. Save Josh, perhaps, because he was the only person on the table that didn't have really any flyers. The one card that Gemi did play, which kept him in the game for longer, and not to mention slowed down the rest of the table, had to be the Commander staple, Cyclonic Rift. Bouncing everything except his own stuff to the table is never something that could really be a bad idea. Well, unless you really are in control of the table, because then you turn it into a 3-on-1, but this was not the case for Gemi. For myself, you could say it's the disc because it kept blowing up everything on the field. You could say it was the Elspeth because of the emblem. But for me, really here, what made my deck work has to be Rhystic Study. I got so many free draws off that, which is why I have to recommend to any and everybody, when you see a Rhystic Study on the table, unless you're playing blue and you're filled to the gills with counterspells, get rid of it as soon as possible. Because either every one of you has to pay the tax, which slows down your own plays, or you don't, and the player controlling it gets all the draws they need to be able to get going. Do you agree with our picks? Let us know what cards you think were the best in the comments down below. And thank you once again, guys, for 800 subs. Well, technically now over 900 subs. And please continue to stay with us on our journey to 1,000. Alright guys, that's it for this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed watching. Just want to let you know, if you aren't already part of our ever-growing EDHCC family and you want to join in on the fun, make sure you smash the subscribe button and the notification bells down below, and you'll know every single time a new video drops. Now, we do videos every single week. Don't forget as well to like them, share them, comment on them, but most importantly, enjoy them. Shout out to all of our family members, our subscribers, our viewers, if you will. It is an honor and a privilege to do this each and every week, and you joining on the fun with us. Until next time, I'm your host, BT, reminding you to check out all of the videos on the channel. Join our game. It's now your turn. Cheers!